Hello, everybody, and welcome to this first episode of Get Real, Real Talk with Mill Digital. I'm Jose Martinez. I'm the community manager. Super happy to be here, and today I'm going to be the host of this first episode show. We're going to pull the curtain back with two very special guests, the co-founders themselves, obviously most important over here, and it's great to have them. So we're going to get real with them shortly. Before we start, let me do a bit of T's and C's. We're streaming in YouTube and on X. If you are watching us on X, please help us putting some comments, retweet this, or share it with your friends so we get a bit more exposure. That'll be awesome if you can help us doing that. And yes, you heard right. We have a YouTube channel, so we're going to be sharing the link so you can start following us on there. Um, a bit of rules. I'm going to be asking some questions to the founders. First, I'm going to address the question directly to one of them. But if the other one wants to jump in, just go for it. If you want to interrupt or complement each other, that's perfectly fine with me. So without further ado, let me introduce our co-founders. I don't think they need introduction. We all know them. We all love them. So gentlemen, welcome to the show. And before you each give me your introduction, please tell me one word that you will use to describe the new community so far. Let's start with Cholo this time.
I would say that they're very engaged. So I'll start with a safe answer. So it's just like warm up. The community is very engaged. I think we've seen that in terms of all the campaigns we've thrown out, which is very positive and very much something that we strive for all the time. So we want a community to be engaged. We want everyone to build with us and be with us through the journey. And really excited that everyone's kind of buying into like what we're doing and what the message we're putting out there, and very much look forward to continuing to grow with this community. So super pumped, and hopefully as we grow, we keep the engagement up because we do want a large following, a large group of mullish people. So very much looking forward to that.
Yeah, for me, one word: rising. So Cholo and I have been at this since June of last year. Both of us I left my full-time job to do this, and Cholo sort of hopped over from his last venture. And we had been posting stuff on our socials throughout like the back half of last year, but it's only really, I would say, December, January timeframe when the community really started taking off for us. I think it was a combination of, we made a concerted effort to launch a bunch of different fun campaigns that the community could resonate with. And we've definitely seen that over the course of really last quarter and over the course of this year. So it's still early. It's awesome to have everyone along for the ride. We've started to meet people in real life as we're traveling across, for different conferences. So the community is rising.
Amazing. I think those are two fantastic words to describe them. Talking of rising, I see the numbers rising of our viewers. We're up in 75, which is fantastic. Welcome everyone to this first ever episode and engage. I truly, I can see it firsthand as a community manager. They're super engaged. They're super awesome. I think we have a fantastic community. I wouldn't change it for anything. So let's talk about origins. Let's go how this came. Was there a jump out of the chair, aha moment for you guys where you thought, okay, let's make this? Tell us how that happened. How did that? Did you come to a problem and you thought you could solve it, or how was it? Patrick, you start this time.
Yeah, so maybe for context, it wasn't just an aha moment. Cholo and I have known each other for actually over a decade now. We first met in 2014. We were colleagues at Merrill Lynch, Singapore. We were both investment bankers, both sort of came up through the ranks in various firms. But we first met at Merrill Lynch, Singapore 10 years ago. Went off and did different things. I went back and forth from Singapore to New York a couple of times. Cholo has been building his career in Asia for a long time, but the context for that is, since we started working together, we've always, over the course of the last decade, continued to stay in touch, not just from a personal level, but also from a business perspective, looking at what's happening. Initially it was more on the equity, in the equity market perspective, looking at different business opportunities across the Asia Pacific region. And for us, crypto really started entering the scene. I would say around like the 2018, 2019 perspective. Cholo was a little bit earlier than I into crypto, but so we followed the evolution of tokenization since 2017. We were both active in DeFi Summer over the last cycle, trading and trying different products. What we really saw over the last 18 to 24 months was this convergence of the types of things which we're familiar with from our professional careers, which is capital market products, financial infrastructure, which was starting to come on chain. We thought this was very interesting. We saw that it was very slow moving, and we saw that there's massive opportunity ahead of us to continue to drive this convergence of traditional financial markets and on-chain behavior or into DeFi. So for us, sort of this RWA, or what people are calling real world assets now, to us is a very familiar territory. It's where both of us cut our teeth building our careers. We're very familiar with these products, and we saw an opportunity for us to have a little bit of a different angle than how anyone else was building it in the space, and bring our expertise sort of across APAC and just generally with financial products and deliver it to the on-chain economy.
Nice. Anything to add, Cholo?
Yeah, no, I think that kind of sums it up. So I think for me personally, like as Patrick mentioned, I really came into crypto more as an investment. So started buying Bitcoin and ETH when I was still in banking. Really thought that the technology was cool, but I really didn't kind of put two and two together in my head around how is this actually gonna supplant the traditional financial ecosystem, right? So it kind of like was always there at the back of my mind. COVID happened, and I think that was the big aha moment for me around what DeFi essentially enables. Essentially, like it reimagines the whole financial infrastructure from the ground up, but it always requires some form of economic or market stress for people to see that maybe this way is better. And I think we're going through that. We went through that in 2020. We went through that. We're going through that now, kind of in a certain sense around how people are starting to see how DeFi is different. You're starting to see institutions come on board. So it was kind of like a slow kind of like percolation of various kind of like factors. I would say that I always believed, and I think Patrick and I always believed that DeFi is the future. It's just that in 2019, 2020, maybe the market wasn't quite ready for assets that are off chain to come on chain. But now the story is very different. So now there's a lot more openness. There's a lot of recognition around why does crypto need non-crypto yields to be able to be more anti-fragile, and really Mu Digital is our way to bring that future into existence by essentially bridging all these assets that we know are very safe, are very kind of like investment grade and very worthy for people to buy into, but they just haven't had access up until this point. So there's going to be a bit of educational process along the way, but I mean, DeFi has shown that it can learn very complex topics, very complex concepts very quickly, and we have no reason to doubt that's going to be different for credit.
Awesome. Now let's move from the idea to the actual. Let's do it. When was there a point where you said, "Okay, this is getting real"? This can actually materialize. How did that happen? Was there some investment talk, or when was the moment when you thought this is going to be the let's do it moment? Let's start with you, Cholo, because you were last.
So what most people maybe don't know about us is like we love to drink. So I think the whole concept around should we start Mu Digital kind of like evolved over multiple discussions at a bar. Like we know which bar we're talking about, I guess, but like it just became like kind of like when an idea is something that has legs, when every time you meet you can't stop talking about it. And that was the case for Mu Digital. That this was probably like close to 2 years ago now, like in November of 2023 probably. So it's still very early. We're still doing different things, but yeah, we just kind of like couldn't stop talking about it, couldn't stop thinking about it. And we just felt that was a push that we needed to really go in and try it out. And we've been kind of validated so far in terms of this journey, but there's still a lot of work ahead of us. So yeah, I mean, but very, very much kind of started out as that thing that you just can't shake, this idea that you just can't get rid of, and you gotta do it.
Nice. Yeah, and just adding to that, and to get real, to give some more, peel back the layer a bit to probably stuff that I haven't said publicly in AMAs or podcasts before. Entrepreneurship is hard for a lot of different ways. And Cholo and I both came from an arc where we were in more traditional settings, investment banking first. I went and worked for a corporate for 4 years after I left my banking life, which was supposed to be a more like relaxed environment, doing the same stuff, doing M&A, doing deals, just in a corporate environment. And what I really missed back then was just the level of rigor, activity, like running at something that matters. I really felt like corporate life was just like a soul crushing experience where, it's a great paycheck and it's super comfortable, but you're not doing anything that matters. Or at least that's how I felt in the particular place that I was at. And then, over that time, there were various business ventures or investments that Cholo and I had talked about because we always had done that stuff over many years. And there were many instances, even his past venture, where we had considered doing that together as well. But it's sort of like a confluence of timing in that, the other venture that I was looking at, I'm super bullish about that other venture, a completely different industry. And, I still am super supportive of it, but to be operating and to spend your time day in, day out in a certain sector, which aligns with your professional experience, but then also that you just have the trust, with your team, with the partners, with the people that you're building around, that matters a lot in entrepreneurship. And, we hear a lot nowadays. It's like, what's the number one thing why startups fail? Sometimes it's because there's not PMF. Sometimes it's because the business idea, you're targeting the wrong area, but oftentimes it's just because of conflict within the team itself. And so I think, for me personally, had the conviction, that Cholo and I, this was the right time. It was the right idea for us to run at. And we're super happy with sort of the team that we've built over time. Of course, Jose, you being one of the early joiners here too. But, for us, like on the more real level, like that is how we see Mu Digital.
Amazing. Do you guys miss those Hermes ties or anything that came with the position, like the city guys?
Not in Asia. It's super warm here, man. I don't know why bankers wear ties in Asia, to be honest. It's like in Singapore, at least, it's like 30 degrees out, man.
So I'll tell a funny story because I started my career in New York, right? So super traditional, suit every day, Hermes tie every day. You have a whole rack of Hermes ties at your desk, or else you're not a real banker. I came over here to Asia, and Cholo will remember this. Like, all the guys are making fun of me for the longest time. They're like, lose a suit and lose a tie. What's wrong with you? And I would always say, any respectable New York banker cannot lose this tie. So even my whole time that, I was at Merrill, whether it was in the office, whether it was out socially, I would always have the tie on. You kind of see some of these callbacks in our Mu Digital comic now with our bull Mulish. For those of you that caught it, that's why he wears a tie. That's why when he transforms to his Z-Gen form, the tie goes around his head, around his waist, like a belt. But it's a callback. It's a callback to our roots.
Nice. For anybody who doesn't know Hermes ties, they have like little designs of animals or whatever, ice creams or whatever, and they're very traditional. It's like an inside joke. So let's go with the name. So why Mu? Like, is there any meaning? Is there a personal? Is it obviously the bull is there, but is there anything philosophy or anything? Let's go with you, Patrick, first.
Yeah, sure. No, I can answer it. Cholo actually answered this question really well on the Thai AMA last week, the Thai NADS AMA last week. The bull and the branding for us is super tied to our heritage. For those that know the traditional house of Merrill Lynch, it's a very storied Wall Street investment bank. If you actually go to Wall Street in New York, there is a bull, which is the Merrill Bull. When we first met, that is the circumstance we met. Of course, the firm had gone through a merger with Bank of America, so it was called Bank of America Merrill Lynch globally, but in Singapore, it was still Merrill Lynch Singapore insofar as the entity goes. And we not only identified with the fact that that's where we met, but there were a lot of the values in that firm that we still hold true today, and it's still values that we try to live out in Mu Digital. It's a professional place, of course. So you work hard, you get your work done in a very, I would say, in a very aggressive and an intent-based manner. But at the same time, the people there had a culture. It was a work hard, play hard culture. People there enjoyed being around other people working for Merrill. Even now, like Cholo and I can really say that we still casually will catch up with our colleagues from Merrill Singapore, which was over a decade ago they worked together. So that a lot of those values resonated with us, and we wanted to bring that to any venture that we started. So for us, all the branding you see in Me Digital. So this, the blue is a callback to Merrill Blue. The bull here is it's our modern take on the Merrill Lynch bull. And the reason why we did it is because it means something to us. It's what we try to embody in this new venture.
Amazing. Cholo, anything to add?
The only thing I would add is like we like the name Mu because it also kind of like when people mispronounce it, it's like Mu, and the Mu is like bull, and bull is like bullish, so price go up. So that's the only thing I'll add. There's like a pun in there, like roped in as well.
I always call it Mu. Must be my Spanish.
That's okay too because Mu is bullish.
So if somebody asks you what's Mu Digital in one sentence, what's your response? Let's go with you, Cholo. One sentence.
Oh, that's hard. I mean, we can talk about the protocol now, but I think more like fundamentally from a vision standpoint, it's really we want to bring the best of TradFi banking on chain, and we've seen that. I think a lot of the. I mean, we didn't talk about it around the whole origin story, but a lot of the impetus for us to kind of like start this was we also kind of got burned through some of these very public blowups and dust ups in crypto, right? So. I didn't get hit directly by Terra Luna, but I know a bunch of people that did. But of course, everyone kind of got indirectly impacted by FTX because of how it triggered a very protracted crypto winter. And really, like from a TradFi lens, both from our perspective, but also from people we speak to, people look at that and it's like, well, we like TradFi went through that. Like TradFi went through that kind of like cycle of like non-transparent, opaque lending, and that kind of led to the same kind of outcomes. So where we really see the next iteration, next evolution of DeFi is when you start marrying these very safe and very non-correlated assets and non-correlated yields from outside of crypto, sourced from actual cash flows that are not treasuries. Like these are actual cash flows backed by cash flow generating businesses in traditional industries, tech and non-tech, and bring that into crypto. And then you pour over the secret sauce of DeFi, which is composability and just like velocity of money is much faster on chain than off chain. And then you kind of marry those two. You create a very compelling asset and use case where you take very safe non-crypto yields, pour it into crypto, and then you have kind of something for everybody. So the very high risk and speculative market will still gravitate towards the high beta, high yield farms. But then you also have some of these like very now kind of maturing companies and DAOs that still want to manage their money off chain, but you offer them a choice. So I think for us, yeah, I mean, that's kind of like a good roundabout way of being like getting back to the TLDR that we are essentially bringing the best of banking on chain.
Thank you. Patrick, a sentence to describe you?
It sounds cliche, but what we're really trying to do is to push the frontier of finance. And so there is an off-chain component to it, and there's an on-chain component to it. Our observation of the market, RWA generally, as it was being constructed and still is being constructed in crypto, is there's a lot of copy-paste going on. So, something exists off-chain, let's just bring it on-chain and put a .com or put it on a blockchain and distribute it, and that's Web3. That's not how we think. We are DeFi users. We think about why DeFi exists and the superpowers behind it. And we are trying to bring the best and sort of stable investments that we're able to from an off-chain perspective and build it in a DeFi native way. I think what we'll all see over the next few years as RWA and DeFi generally is starting to see a lot more institutional interest and also government interest across the globe. We sit here in Asia where the advancements have been happening for many years. In the US, the government is finally putting some rails around what's possible, what's not. But the biggest risk here is the banks all just come and take over everything that DeFi has built. And that's it. It's over, right? And that's not our ethos at all. It's not how we're trying to build. We're trying to do things in a way that is native to DeFi users, in a way that is building around DeFi. We do think there's a way, to marry both sides. It should be more of a Web 2.5, as much as I hate that term. It should be something which brings the best of both worlds, which is what Cholo is saying. But I feel like the different ways in which people are approaching it now are not always true to that ethos.
Okay, fair enough. And nice response. Thanks for that. Before I move to the next question, I just want to say that we have reached 280 people watching, which is
That's
fantastic.
awesome.
Although this is not an AMA, guys, please comment. Please send us your feedback. We do listen to that. We appreciate any feedback, anything you want to tell us. Just drop it on the comments. It's super important for us and to learn and to keep on this program. Just drop it in there. So let's move to both of you, your dynamic, how you interact. We already know Merrill Lynch, Singapore, and you were working together, and the idea came from a bar. But how do you complement each other? I know, like working with you guys, who looks after what and that. But for outside people, how do you complement? How do you distribute work, or what are your skills, and how do you complement each other? Start with you, Patrick.
Yeah, sure. And I think it's a very interesting way that it's played out because of the fact first of all, we've worked together professionally in the past. We also know each other personally for a long time. And I actually think that it helps unlock things like quickly because there's a lot of things that, of course, are said in meetings and a lot of things that are unsaid. And between the two of us, we can cut through the BS very quickly. You know, if like one of us is like unhappy about one thing, or is like feels like a little annoyed about something, or someone's happy about the other thing, we can cut through that very quickly. Which I think for any startup, one of the most important things between founders is conflict resolution and doing it in a very fast loop. I feel like because we have a history of working together, I think that works super well. I think what's interesting because of the fact that this isn't Cholo's first venture, but it's my first venture. So he has sort of like the reps and sort of the knowledge about how sort of that transition from corporate life to startup life. There's a lot of differences. I mean, a lot of the things that make you successful in corporate or even banking life will not make you successful in startup land. And Cholo's lived that, and I'm going through it now, right? Like at least in terms of like experience and years of having built ventures. So I think, for me, it's personally, I'm going through like the first time founder thing, and you learn quickly, but you quickly learn like what doesn't work and what works, and you get feedback from whoever it is, whether it's customers, users, investors, partners. You learn what works and what doesn't work pretty quickly. So what's happened is like traditionally, my specialty was a mergers and acquisition banker. So in banking, those tend to be like the most structured, like, always do the weekly progress reports and very like process driven person. It's funny because in this venture, like Cholo has become that more so than me. Even I'm more just like the wave my hands around and talk and run around and fly around and do stuff, which is like it's actually like very counter to how I was in banking. But because of the fact that we know how each other work, it actually works because we can complement each other in that way.
Cholo.
So I think that does cover a lot of the dynamic, but I think what Pat also mentioned is I just can't reiterate a point enough. I think it's always good to. I mean, I don't have experience having founded a kind of like a startup with like fresh out of college. So like my first venture was after also a couple of years in a professional setting, but I would say versus that there's a different kind of like rhythm and different cadence that you get working with someone you worked with before, and I can see why while it's a meme and it's like a heuristic, it's a shortcut that VCs use. It actually makes sense. Like if these two founders have worked with each other before, then the risk of them kind of like having a dust up that they can't move on from is much less. So that I think has been a big kind of like boon to us being able to move faster because yeah, like Patrick mentioned, there's no kind of second guessing, and I guess we've known each other for quite some time. We've had conflicts before from a long kind of like friendship and working relationship, so nothing's new in that sense. So and there's very little ego in that sense when we deal with each other, which I think has I've heard from other people has been issues in founder relationships. So I think that's been kind of a good compliment. And whenever we're kind of unsure, we just talk things out, and that's always very beneficial because you kind of like really come to a middle ground that both are happy with, which is not easy in a space as fast moving as crypto.
That really leads me to my next question, and it's get real. What is something that you don't like from each other, but
Yeah.
is necessary for the business? Can you share some real, like you say, oh, I don't know, he always does this and drives me nuts, but it's the right thing to do? Open for whoever wants to take it.
I have a layup, and I think Cholo knows what I'm going to say. So I come from an environment where, as an M&A banker, like setting progress updates and setting meetings is like literally like that is your job, like to herd all the different cats in an organization and do it. When I came over to my own business, what I thought was, oh, I have all this freedom of time and you can set your own agenda and do this. And at this point, like, Cholo, like, no, we need like daily scrums. Like, first of all, I was like, what the hell is a scrum? Second of all, why do we need it daily? That's just the scrums. But then we have department meetings, we have one-on-one meetings, we have, and the department meetings tend to be like bi-weekly. We have all hand meetings, once a week. So we have a very structured cadence just of meetings, which I didn't expect at all in a startup environment. But no, I mean, I agree. I mean, one of the things that when we started this, my comment to Cholo was, if everyone just did their job, we wouldn't need all these meetings. And, Cholo responded and said, no, I mean, if you need these meetings to make sure that in each meeting you're talking about something new, that means that you are actually moving the ball, or else, people just, it's easy to stagnate unless you're continually talking about new issues. And it's gotten to the point in our cadence where, there's not a daily scrum now where we don't have multiple new issues to talk about. It's the pace that we're running at now. It's a sign of a business that is moving in a forward direction, and I think it's a requirement. So yeah, I still whinge about it, still, but I do think that it's good for the business.
Very good.
Yeah.
Cholo, anything to bring to light?
No, I knew he was gonna say that, but no, we had a lot of like discussion around that at the start. So my kind of like my answer to that question is actually crypto does kind of like spoil you a little bit. Like after having spent 2 years in my prior venture, you kind of get used to this thing like where you do stuff first and you ask questions later. And I still kind of carry that DNA. We're like, oh yeah, this is easy, let's do it. Like, or let's just say yes quickly, move on, like cheap engagement, all that. Patrick always kind of like wants to slow it down and say like, hey, let's think about this and let's think about, or is this kind of like hitting our objectives? And I think that is kind of like new. It's like, no, like before, I mean, I guess Jose, you've been in a similar kind of sector of crypto before. We just kind of like do a lot of partnerships. None of them are really meaningful, or like not many of them are meaningful, but you just do it for the meme or the numbers. But Patrick doesn't carry that same bias, and I think that's been helpful actually for us to really start to think about and slow down our process, but not slow down our momentum. And I think that's very hard to get right in startups. I mean, I don't think we have it perfect, but we're making an effort to do better. And I think that also is just a good discipline the team has, where we just ask the first question around like, why should we do this? Is this in line with our objectives? Where sometimes in crypto, because things move super fast, you don't really take the time to pause and think about it. So I think that's the kind of counterbalance to where my tendency is just like, just do it and move on kind of thing. So it's I think it's a good mix, and it's a good kind of like dynamic that's evolved over time.
100%. And as somebody working with you guys, I can see how you complement and how these things are beneficial for the project overall. Let's move on to the future and the vision. Like, there's lots of projects, like thousands. What is Mu Digital different? What makes it so special? I know it's a huge question.
No, maybe, yeah, I can start, and I would take two angles to it actually. The first is, unless you're building something that matters, then you shouldn't be building it. And I really firmly believe that. And as we thought about how we can bring something different and a new angle specifically to the RWA space, we started with what's lacking in the market and what can we bring based on our background and our strengths to the market that's new. So the way we think about that is asset origination. We didn't see anyone targeting Asia Pacific credit products at scale. And we thought that given our relationships and given the fact that both of us used to be origination bankers in the region, and we have the ability to sort of traverse across APAC and find deals and deliver them to the on-chain economy. I mean, that's something that we hope is useful to the on-chain economy, especially in markets like now, when people are just searching for anything that holds value. The second is building in a way that, you know, it's not sort of like build and they will come. It's more, what does the community desire? How do we first, you know, find a community that is engaged with what we want? How do we embrace that community and then continue to build in ways and continue to iterate our product in ways that are useful to the community? Now, of course, within bands. I mean, we know sort of what our lane is and what we're trying to do, but that is the reason why, especially now, you've seen us like pick up a lot of whether it's, you know, online or IRL community events. We're making a huge push to just get out there so people feel like you know, they can help drive the future of this protocol. I mean, this is crypto, and you know, in both of your guys' last venture, you know, in that sector, you saw how important building real communities was and how important that is for the lifeblood of long-term protocols. And we don't think RWA has to be boring. We don't think RWA has to be suited up. We don't think it has to be Insta only. I mean, the community can enjoy RWA too. And we're trying to build it in a way that the product matters, but also the community matters.
Nicely said. Cholo, anything to add here?
I think I'm lagging a bit. So
yeah, you're back. Yeah, you were lagging
for a bit,
but you're back. Yeah.
Like, yeah, no, so I just the one thing I'd add is that, like, from our perspective, like, we come from a TradFi market that's very mature and is very kind of like already evolved in how it allocates capital. So from my perspective, like, how we're different is also we're not solving a Web3 problem per se, which, I mean, I think that's a very worthwhile pursuit. I think a lot of DeFi tries to solve kind of like technical problems in crypto, better trading experiences. And I think that's very much a like a problem to go after. But where I see us positioned is that we're actually solving a Web2 problem. We're solving a Web2 problem in terms of like the free flow of capital from Web3 users into Web2 users. Web3 is just a part of the toolkit for the solution. And I think that is like how really we in crypto can bring on the next million users on chain, is that we essentially solve a problem that's off chain so that you make using Web3 very natural. Because otherwise, if it's just a Web3 problem that we're solving for Web3 people, then we're not really kind of like going down that ethos of solving something out beyond Web3. And that's where we fundamentally feel the value of like RWA projects lie, is that you're unlocking a solution that hitherto has not been accessible by Web2 participants because they just haven't understood what Web3 is. But now there is this opportunity, as Patrick mentioned, because of dislocation of capital markets, where you can kind of put the two together and create something new. And that for us is working at that frontier of financial innovation is super exciting.
Amazing. So how do you see the platform evolve in the next couple of years? I know that there's feedback from community, depending how things go, solving problems. What would be an ideal scenario for you to have in the platform in 5 years? Start with you, Cholo.
So, I mean, it's a great question. So, like, my perspective is RWA. Well, it's been tried many times before. Now it's kind of in that sweet spot where it has the opportunity to actually hit escape velocity, with this kind of like this like confluence of factors like regulatory clarity, I think more mature on-chain economy, but also kind of like more like yield hunting or like more diversification like behavior from on-chain users. And really what we're seeing, that the reason there's a preponderance of RWA projects is that there is an actionable market segment, a market opportunity, but for lack of a better word, it is in a very early stages of capital formation. So I would say that the category winners for this segment of the market are essentially going to be minted in this current cycle, and we very much want to kind of like take what we mentioned earlier about our core values, our core principles around bringing the best of TradFi banking and bringing it into Web3, and really being that kind of exemplar or kind of that prototype of what safe RWA on chain looks like. And that's what we're going to continue to build for the next year, the next 5 years. And over time, we believe that our focus on trust, our focus on safety, and our focus on transparency and community will ensure that, or will kind of give us the best chance to be able to become one of those kind of category winners that kind of represent the best possible version of RWA that fits and composes into DeFi.
Yeah, maybe just to add to that, just talking about where the market is now. I know RWA is it's one of the narratives which has become a hot narrative, particularly in the cycle. But if you just look at the numbers, from any category you're looking at, whether it's stable coins at 250 billion, whether it's US Treasuries at 5 billion at TVL, all of those numbers are less than 1% of what actually lives in the on-chain market. And what that means is we are super, super early in terms of the adoption of all these products. We are at a stage when people are trying to tokenize every single asset class under the sun, whether it's physical assets, financial assets, intangible assets. There's a lot of builders out there that are working on different types of RWA. We have our beliefs in why the specific category that we're building for is interesting and sort of fits the characteristics of DeFi users. But what we do want to be in I would say in the more near term, so the next 2 to 3 years is, as Cholo says, we want to be, one of the category leaders in the forefront of the specific thing that we're building. We don't think it's a zero-sum game. We don't think anyone that's doing PvP right now in RWA has completely lost the plot, because the whole sector needs to grow. We think there's a lot of really talented founders out there building different narratives in RWA, which we're happy to be alongside everyone and build along that. And we think there's a lot of areas to collab, across the industry. So we hope that sort of this niche of RWA, I would say over the next 2 to 3 years, really becomes a category killer within crypto that, as Cholo says, is onboarding millions of new users into this space. From more the demand side, I think it's super interesting what you see right now in terms of investment sort of psyche or characteristic of on-chain actors. It's almost like there's only two options. It is you hold stable coins because you don't want to lose any wealth, and sometimes you don't even get any yield off that, or you want 100x and you ape into meme coins. There's a whole spectrum of risk return, on the risk return spectrum where potential investments can sit. And what we hope, and sort of how we hope to push the on-chain behavior to evolve over time, is that people recognize and are looking for things depending on sort of their risk return appetite. And I think we may have lost our host, Jose. Should we ask each other questions?
Should we I know we have the question list. Give him a few minutes, or should we keep going?
Yeah, let's give him 30 seconds. Otherwise, I'm gonna put you in the hot seat, and I'm gonna ask you these questions. I'll pull them up.
Yeah, we can alternate.
Sorry, everyone watching for the rug. Yeah, the reason we came to this platform is because X always rugs, and apparently we just got rugged on this one too.
This is the only rug I will tolerate. Can he actually get back in, sir?
I'm not sure.
Should be.
Why don't?
Okay.
Yeah.
Should we carry on?
Yeah. So I'll become the host, and now you can be in the hot seat. So, one category that we're going to start doing in all of these podcasts, it's the rapid fire round. So I'll shoot some questions at you, and then you have to give me 1-sentence responses to all of them. First question: biggest crypto myth?
Oh, it's spicy. I have a spicy take. Oh, Jose is back. Should we?
Yeah, let's start to Jose.
I think we kind of skipped through a few questions.
Yeah, we were just going to the rapid fire round. We thought this platform wouldn't rug us like X, but apparently we got rugged on this one too.
We are on X, so I think the power of rugging X is beyond their own platform, and it has to happen. You cannot be live on X.
It's not a crypto, or else it's not a crypto feed.
It's not a live stream until some technical difficulties. So All good.
100%.
Where do we stop off?
Uh, I think we're
Should,
talking
should,
about the future of how we see this in 5 years and how important it is to have the trust of people because there is not safe RWA is seen as not safe sometimes.
Yeah, so the future piece. So we got through our responses there. So maybe I'll touch on the safety part because that's super important to us too, and just from a fundamental perspective. As we mentioned on this pod, Chol and I both come from a regulated environment. So we build first in a way that is a way that as much as I hate the term institutional grade, it is just we're used to operating in those environments where you have to deal within regulations, you have to engage with the regulators, which is something that is important to us across different markets, particularly in APAC, which we operate in, but in a way that it has the same safety and same due diligence standard or the same review standard as anything that goes through one of the major global investment banks or private equity firms. That's the type of assets that we will look to originate. But more on the user side as well. There's so many stories in crypto of, okay, offering you a 10% yield, 20% yield, a 400% yield, but where does that yield come from? We will always build in a transparent way with proof of reserves of, what's behind our investment. And we'll always try to emphasize communication, in terms of like product development and, our intent of things. We're humans just like everyone else. So, to us, it's just as long as you're open and you're available, when things happen, that's how we'll always try to build. But because of all the different major rugs that have happened, whether it was in the last cycle, unfortunately, whether it was in this cycle, they impact any RWA protocol because, of course, if you get burned, then you're always going to be more hesitant. So we try to build in a way that it'll happen over time as we've been around for more and people are familiar with the products and what we launch. And we have successful case studies of how it's worked for retail, how it's worked for insties, that hopefully over time we can build that trust of the community.
Nice. You can say it, the phrase of yields.
Not all yields are equal.
There you go.
TM, Mulish, our new digital mascot. First one. Heard it here first.
Very good. I've seen it in other places, starting to create a resonance, which is always great to see.
Imitation is the biggest form of flattery.
100%. So let's talk a little bit and quick because we're already coming to almost a close-up. We have 45 minutes. I think we're going to start wrapping up. But before that, I would like to talk about the culture and the people and what kind of people you're looking for, either to work or in the community or for the future. So tell us about the ecosystem. When you see RWA, probably you think it's B2B, but you're building a community. So tell us about that ecosystem and the people. Cholo, I haven't heard you since I rocked.
Yeah, I think from an ecosystem standpoint, and this cuts across both internally and our partners. Like we really kind of like, and we kind of like spend a lot of time with this, like in the early stages around like writing out kind of like criteria around like how we hire, how we work with partners. But I think fundamentally it's really kind of alignment, and I think we like from in banking as well. Like there's huge like focus on reputational risk, and reputational risk essentially I would distill it down to like like ultimately banking as well as crypto, even though it's like very tech driven, it's still a people business, right? There, despite the rise of AI agents, it is still people interacting with people. And I think for us it's really alignment around core values, core vision, and also kind of like core principles around how they treat people, others as well as people internally. And that's kind of like what we found is a very high signal kind of selection criteria for people who would rug, and we kind of like stand by that. So as I mentioned earlier, like when we talk about who we partner with, who we hire, Patrick and I will have multiple conversations, and we tend to kind of like slow down the process when it comes to big decisions like that, and we make sure that we get it right so that we don't waste too much time around fixing things down the line because we made a decision too hastily. Sometimes that may be a bit slower, but I think it over time it selects and bubbles up the right partners and the right clients and the right people to bring on board as well. So I think for us, it's really like one of the key pillars around how we decide who we want to work with is really that alignment around core values and just the vision in terms of where we want to take Web3 and where we want to see Web3 progress into the future.
Amazing. Patrick, anything to add in there?
No, I think definitely from a team perspective, our values. I mean, we talked about the history of where we came from. Starting at Merrill, why we did certain things with how we built Mu Digital, just from a genesis, and that's never going to change as long as Cholo and I are here. That's the way we're going to continue to build, whether it's a team of 7, which we are today, or the team of 700, which hopefully we are at some point, in the future. So that'll never change. I think also as it relates to ecosystem and partners, one of the really tough things in this crypto is, as I mentioned, making sure that the ones that we partner with from a DeFi perspective and sort of a composability perspective and a partnership perspective are building something for the long term that matters, because that characterization is not always the same across the space, and we're looking for similar partners that share a long-term mentality.
Nice. And as a member of your team, I can say that I can see all that, and it's lived throughout the whole employees, which is fantastic. If you had, given that you had a previous venture with gaming, this question is a bit crazy, but if you had to pick Mu as a game character, which character would you pick and why?
Like a video game character.
Yeah, a video game character. Which character would be and why? You can take your time, and whenever you're ready, just go for it. This is a warm-up for our next session.
I would say I have an answer. Mine would be like Solid Snake from Metal Gear series.
Awesome game.
Some of our viewers may be too young to know about Metal Gear, but kind of represents us a bit old, a bit gray, a bit bitter, but also a bit fun, and also we don't take any nonsense. So like Metal Gear is a very zany kind of like series, so I love it. I play it like every couple of years or so.
In my brain, I just got the exclamation mark and the
noise.
It's a funny question because, well, the way I'll answer it is we've sort of been writing these comics with for those that have not made the connection yet, the Genesis comics of our bull mascot, who has now been named Moolish by the community. It is somewhat our art. We came from very traditional background and super buttoned up, used to doing things the way we started to discover the different types of assets, or just generally crypto in general and what was being built in the space. We got super frustrated that the fact that the things are being in the space were all vaporware and not real things. And now we're trying to evolve the system in a new way and build into the future. So to answer your question, I somewhat made the parallel of our bull to Goku from Dragon Ball Z, because he transforms from his like TradFi boring self to his ultimate degen RWA man. RWA going to make it tatted on his chest. So to some degree, that's always how I envision our arc and in our mind, or at least in my mind, and we play that out in the comics.
Very good. Those are excellent answers. So now we're going to move to our rapid fire round. These are going to be punchy answers. Just keep it short so we can move quite quick. First thing that comes to your mind. It doesn't have to be too well thought. I see, Patrick, you're getting ready for it. So biggest crypto myth, and just jump. Whoever has the answer, just go for it. Biggest crypto myth.
All yields are equal. Easy.
Oh, mine is like more spicy. Decentralization is king.
Oh, most underrated builder on Web3 right now.
I don't know if they're underrated, but I would say Pendle. Super respect for what that team has done over a long period of time.
I wouldn't say Monad because that's kind of layup because we're building a Monad, but I think like Andre Cronje and Sonic I think they're doing super interesting things, but people kind of like just fade it. I don't know. Could be something down the line.
By the way, if you're watching this, this is not
Yeah, it's
investment
not, but it's not
advice.
DIOR.
And NFA. Also,
Uh,
sorry, Abdul. We didn't just make a Sonic comment.
uh, what's your favorite city to build in
Hmm.
Let's exclude Singapore because that's kind of like that's cheating. Like outside of Singapore, right?
outside Singapore? Okay.
Honestly, this is very hard because we build across all APAC, and like for example, over the course of this month, Seoul, Hong Kong, Bangkok, we'll be in Jakarta next month. Like honestly, it's hard for us to say that, and I'm not going to pick one. Sorry, that's cop out.
No, I'm gonna say Hong Kong. Sorry.
Okay. Awesome city. Okay. One thing you'll tell your 25-year-old self, and you cannot say buy Bitcoin.
Oh man. Okay, not can't say anything about buy any other coin, right? Because that's also kind of cheating.
Yeah, or buy Google stock. You can't.
Mm. I would say learn computer science. Actually, no, I would have been out of college by then. So I don't know. Take a computer science course.
I go completely other way, and I hope I'm not aging myself by saying this. YOLO, you only live once, so do whatever makes you happy, whether it's building or personally.
Nice. Deep. One hill you'll die on.
Easy. I already have mine. Dogecoin $100. Oh, Dogecoin $1. No, sorry, not $100.
Monad testnet Q3. Let's go, please.
Select one of these to fill your bag: Ethereum, Bitcoin, USDC.
Oh, Bitcoin.
Yeah,
Easy.
Bitcoin 100.
Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Favorite thing of New Digital? One thing.
Favorite thing?
Yeah.
Culture, team.
One thing. I don't. The art is pretty good. The UGC is pretty cool. That's been my
Nice.
favorite thing so far. Yeah.
By the way, very soon we're gonna have some winners. That was a tough thing to process. Uh, so I do not have any more questions. I really thank you for your time, guys. It's been fantastic to have you. It's been great to be able to be part of the first episode. I thoroughly enjoyed myself, and I hope you enjoyed being in the first episode. Uh, it's not always going to have the same structure. We're going to be changing these episodes. We're going to have external guests, sometimes even non-crypto guests. This is to find real, get real, as the name tells it. Uh, all of those that you're watching, I hope you enjoy it. Give us your comments. We're about to reach 500 viewers, which is fantastic. Thanks all of you for being here. This is just the beginning. If you're listening, you're already part of the story. Thanks, Patrick. Thanks, Cholo, to kicking off this show with the right foot. I think it has been a great one. Stay bullish, stay curious, and this is Real Talk with Music Digital. Thank you, everybody, and bye bye.
Until next time, GMU.
GMU.
GMU.